Hello and welcome to Blythe Business News. Today we have Stene joining us from Apollon Formularies, an international medical cannabis pharmaceutical company specializing in cutting-edge research and the treatment of patients with cancer and chronic pain. Apollon is listed on the ACA exchange under the ticker APOL. Also joining us is Sibusiso Xaba, co-founder and CEO of the African Cannabis Advisory Group. Stene, I'm going to start with you. Last time you were here, you mentioned a partnership with a company out in South Africa. Can you give us an update on how that's going?
Hi, Alice. Thank you for having us on your platform again. Yes, our strategic partner is Medicon in South Africa. So they really have taken the opportunity and run with it. And they're starting to reach milestones much quicker than we anticipated. We hosted a cannabis business conference with them at the end of May in South Africa, in KwaZulu-Natal, in Durban, where they managed to successfully invite almost all of the key stakeholders in the public and private sector. So we had, we had representation from the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health. We had SAHPRA there, who are the regulator. They're the equivalent of the MHRA in England, and it was a great opportunity for us to introduce our partnership with Medicon to the local market, and also to highlight what our roadmap would be. So there's that. On an independent front, they've gone ahead and fostered relationships with two key academic institutions on their clinical research side, and they've started their cultivation and research and development licenses, which are imminent. They should be coming through in a matter of weeks.
Great. And Sibs, welcome to Blythe Business News. Nice to have you on the platform. Could you just give us a bit of background on the African Cannabis Advisory Group and how you got involved with the cannabis industry to begin with?
Hi, Alice. Great to be here today. Africa Cannabis Advisory Group is a services provider that specializes in the medical cannabis and industrial hemp industries. We work with quite a broad range of stakeholders, including entrepreneurs, corporates, governments, and investors, and we help in the conceptualization and execution of cannabis projects and initiatives. I got involved in the cannabis industry via a project I was doing in my former life as an investment banker in the UK, where I was looking at agricultural investment opportunities, and started to get familiar with developments within the sector. And after sort of very in-depth research and spending time in key markets such as Israel, Canada, and Europe, really understood the potential of this industry to truly transform Africa from a healthcare, industrialization, and economic perspective. And that's when I made the decision to quit my job in investment banking and move back to South Africa to set up this business that would help facilitate the development of the sector on the continent.
And Stene, I mean, how do you see Africa Cannabis Advisory Group's role, and SIB's role in particular, with Apollon and your tie-up out there?
Yes, it's key that we have SIBS and the ACA group on board. 8 months ago, when we decided as a team at Apollon to, increase our geographic footprint into Africa, we realized that we needed to have a specialist on board that knew all the local nuances and regulatory frameworks, etc. Every country has slightly different regimes on how they run things. And we needed a local person or a local company, and SIBS, after doing my due diligence, was top of the tree, frankly. So the other positives that SIBS comes with is that we at Apollon and Medicon, we're a very patient-led business, obviously publicly traded, so we have different skills across our group. What's good about SIBS is that, and unusual in the space, is that he has an institutional background. He spent 7 years working at a very high level in the banking world in London. So he understands the institutional mindset, and having both of those skills in one person and one company is very beneficial for Apollon. And then I suppose the third most important thing is that SIB spent a long time fostering relationships throughout the world with a lot of the countries that are further advanced than South Africa at the moment. So Germany and Australia, Israel, etc. So he has a substantial network there already, and that will help us in our future endeavors when we're looking at export sales into these regions. He will be a key force behind that.
Fantastic. I mean, in South Africa, you're also operating within the South African development community as well. Sibs, what's the kind of potential you're seeing in the cannabis market in Southern Africa and the wider community?
Sure. So I think South Africa is a fairly unique country when it comes to medical cannabis because, and actually cannabis more broadly, because the government is in the process of fully legalizing cannabis, so medical, industrial, and adult use. South Africa benefits from very established industries, for example, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and has a in-depth, sort of talent pool that can help facilitate the development of the industry within South Africa. South Africa also has got very strong trade links into the rest of Africa. So in many ways, our view is that South Africa will be the leader in the cannabis industry in Africa. And because of its unique approach of looking to fully realize the value of cannabis, we think that it's perfectly positioned for expansion into the rest of Africa, and in fact into the rest of the world, around not only the expertise that can be cultivated here, but for example, South Africa also has a very low cost of production when it comes to cannabis versus other geographies, and putting all of these competitive advantages, we see a really compelling opportunity for the South African cannabis industry in the medium to long term.
Stene, you've heard the potential now throughout the rest of Africa. Is Apollon looking to take what you're doing in South Africa at the moment and potentially move into other markets on the continent?
Yes, that was always our intention. South Africa is the first market that we want to go to. It's the most sophisticated market, and once we have our business model working well in South Africa, it was always intended to be a springboard into SADC, the South African Development Community, and then into the wider African region. We had very, very positive feedback during our conference and after our conference that was held, as I mentioned, at the end of May, beginning of June, because we had some SADC representation there. So we have already begun negotiations and high-level talks with 3 SADC countries and 1 country further north up in Africa. So that will drive, our expansion further north. But for now, our focus is on South Africa, getting a good business model going there and having our products tested by the regulatory authorities and the medical fraternity. And once we've got that, for sure, SADC is our first port of call.
Well, thank you both. I'm really excited to see what happens with Apollon out in South Africa, and obviously, Sibs, great to have you on the platform and hear your views on the potential out there. That's it for today's Blythe Ray Business News. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next time.